out there that's got videos and he's got 800,000 views on something I did very similar, and that well, we didn't promote it. I don't know how he promotes it, or is it just because he putting out content for so long or whatever?
I'm not going to say we're jealous Betties, but we're definitely a little bit jealous right now. Good morning, everybody. This is Jay Leask and Craig Janke, This Week in Teams on September 12th, 2020. Craig, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Jay. If you haven't figured it out, I'm Craig Yankee. So, pleasure to be
You
here
really
on
don't
this
like when I
bright, sunny
introduce you, do you?
Chicago morning.
Is it a sunny Chicago morning? Because it
No,
is
it's been raining here
overcast
for
as
like a
it
week.
is. It is very overcast here. It is not pleasant out. A little bit chilly too.
So September, Labor Day came, right? And that's traditionally the transition from summer to fall. It's not the actual
Yes.
start of fall, but it's traditionally the start of it. And man, was it a switch in
Yeah.
Chicago. It went from 90s and sunny and dry for the past 2 to 3 weeks. I think we had 30 days without rain to cold and 60s and overcast and nonstop rain.
Oh, so Chicago.
Yeah. Usually we get some. We're supposed to get better this week, but my lawn's looking green again, so that's
Oh,
always
that's
good.
good. Yeah, I didn't treat my lawn well this year. It looks it. So, Craig, I appreciate you pulling together notes last night. I wasn't sure what kind of episode we were going to have. We did the last 2 weeks. We did the back to the basics type stuff. The boot camp is what it was called, and I think they went over well. But I'm excited to see that there's enough going on in Teams land that we actually have a full on release notes type episode today.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that too. I was expecting to do some more of what we were doing because I didn't know that there was anything out there. I had been
I
paying
didn't
attention,
know.
and I kept seeing
We're
stuff.
so uninformed.
No, I mean, I saw that there was stuff coming out here, so I'm like, well, let's see what I can pull together. And then I realized there was a lot that actually came out in the last couple weeks, so
Yeah.
I was excited about that. Do we want to just jump into it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go totally out of order. Let's knock out GitHub. Since it's more of a technical thing, I don't want to like get into it in the middle, and I certainly don't want to end with it. So let's knock that one out really quick. So Microsoft Teams and or Microsoft has announced the GitHub integration. Are you particularly familiar with what they're expecting to happen there?
Yeah, so that was actually one that came out last night, which prompted me to go, oh hey, let's look and pull together what everything else came out, because that is the actually most recent one. Jeff Tepper, the father of Teams, or the vice president over all of Teams and SharePoint, put that out last night, and I was reading through it. Basically, it allows integration with GitHub for the developers to actually communicate back and forth with each other. So there was some, we already had some connection in with Slack with GitHub. So, developers could kind of talk about what they're doing, communicate around their projects, and do that kind of stuff through Slack. And obviously, that's a competitor of ours, and we don't want developers having to use Slack to communicate.
Man, you've said it
So
3 times now. They're gonna fire you.
yeah, I know. So we brought a lot of that integration into Teams with GitHub. So the developers can actually communicate about their projects and their releases and their pushes and information around that into Teams. So while it sounds kind of techy as far as, the lay user goes, well, I'm not using GitHub or whatever. For developers, that's an important thing. So it's more end userish than you would think. Um, they're not actually doing their code and stuff in Teams and pushing it to GitHub. It's more the communication piece around GitHub is being brought into Teams, so
Gotcha.
they can have that one stop, keep that one container of where they're doing all their communications
So
as
it's
much as
so it's
possible.
Teams as a business use case for developers. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Okay, well then, good for us. I clearly have been out of the development world for a long time, and I mean, I know what GitHub is, but understanding this specific use case there, I don't really think about it that way. But that does make a lot of sense. I know I've got developer friends who use Slack for communications, and they kind of lift their nose up at Teams. So I imagine that'll be good for developers. Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
I'm going to go one up. We've talked about tasks and teams a bunch. We had Bobby Chang, Microsoft employee, come on to talk about them with us, and I thought that was a really entertaining episode.
Yeah, he was very
I'm
good.
sorry, Bobby was talking about business apps. That's
I was going to
terrible.
say, I thought he was talking about Dataflex, was that's a whole different conversation there.
Oh, that was awful. Can't mix our guests up.
Yeah, well, that's
We had
okay.
Stacy Deerstroll on to talk about tasks and teams and planner and the value you can get out of that. So you got in here. Whiteboarding is going to join tasks and teams as um, uh, a newer feature, I guess, is where this is going, right?
Sort of. So whiteboarding.
Well, let's just rewind that entire 5 minutes and start over. What's going on?
I don't know. You know we're not going to because we're lazy. So we'll just keep going. We'll keep plowing through. So yeah, whiteboard has always been a part of Teams, or not always been, but it's been part of Teams and Teams meetings for a little while. But unfortunately, it's been very limited to just being able to draw on it. If you've used the whiteboard app outside of Teams, you get stickers and post-it notes, and it's a pretty cool tool to be just using. But it didn't have the same functionality into Teams that it does as a standalone project. So that is what they're looking to do, is to bring more of those features and make it like the actual whiteboard app inside of Teams and be able to use that. So it becomes a little better product for everybody involved, I think. So I'm looking forward to that.
So this is probably the more basic version, huh?
Yeah. So you get like the really cheap version of it.
Yeah.
Which is okay, but it doesn't have the business use case that, like I said, the nice thing about it is being able to add post-it notes and move stuff around and copy paste and images like that. So,
okay.
I believe back in the day in our old podcast, we had Sharon Weaver on. We talked to her for a while. She has a consulting company based out of Kansas City, but her husband, Jonathan, we may have to see if we can get him in to talk about whiteboard, because he loves to talk about whiteboard. It's his favorite product, and he's angling to be a whiteboard MVP. So
is that even a thing?
No, it is not a thing. And that's he wants to be the first one on it. So
let's do it. All right. So whiteboard is coming. If you haven't played with whiteboard, but you're a Windows 10 user, go download it. It is pretty slick, I got to agree. The first time I got to use it was on one of the big Surface hubs in a Microsoft facility.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I agree, it is pretty cool. The fact that they're going to bring the full version of it into Teams meetings is very valuable. It's interesting. The more my wife got through her first week of students this week, and they use Teams at their school.
Yay for them.
It is neat. Every once in a while, she's like, I have a Teams question for you. I'm like, yes, come to the dark side. But so it's interesting to see how these features like whiteboard would benefit her if, her school had Windows computers with touchscreens, but still, that it's cool. So there's some other things that I think will be really valuable to her. She keeps getting told there's a big update coming in October, the Microsoft Teams breakout rooms feature. So you did a video a couple months ago on our YouTube channel suggesting how you might do a breakout room, but these are proper breakout rooms. I've seen some screenshots of it, and it's actually available in my office tenant for preview. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, they're rolling that out. So that's in preview now. That is been announced as coming out. It's on the roadmap, is in previews. And then we have an article that we will attach to this if you want to see screenshots and how that works. But yeah, it's slated for the October release. And kind of jumping down, Microsoft has Ignite coming up. So that's our annual conference where we, just kind of big user conference. We'll put a link to that also, but that's going to be September 22 through the 24th. It was scheduled to be in New Orleans. I'll go back to breakout rooms in a second. That was scheduled to be in New Orleans, but now it's going to be virtual and open to anybody who wants to register for it as free. So you'll
highly recommended.
Yeah, all the training around Teams and all our Office 365 products. So that's pretty sweet. But Jeff Tepper has promised some cool surprise and big release notes that are going to come out of that. So looking forward to that.
So
But
back
going
to
out to
breakout
breakout rooms,
rooms.
back to breakout rooms, that's been a feature that we've been asked about a lot from education especially, but also from at the enterprise when they're doing trainings and things like that. We have the little webinars going, which is great. We can do a meeting, we can share, but sometimes we want to break out people into groups of 3 to 5 to 7 sometimes, and have them do a little project. And then breakout rooms allows us to do that, so we can be able to say, okay, I want to create these rooms so that these people can go communicate. They'll have whiteboard, they'll be able to talk, and then I can bring them back as a facilitator. I can bring them back if I need to. I don't have to wait for them to come back. And one of the cool features about that is I can say, okay, let's take Tom and Jerry and Sally and put them into a room, or I can say just randomly pick every 3 people and put them into a room, so I don't have to do all that assignment. So kind of cool that way.
Your workaround was a good one until the feature came. I talked about my wife earlier. Their school, the way they're doing it is they have recommended teachers set up private channels in each of their classrooms. So each classroom is let me rephrase that. Each
team is a classroom.
No, it's not a classroom. Each team is a subject. So
okay.
English 101, British Lit. Each one of those gets a team, and then each major class gets a private channel.
Right.
And so so if she brings in like all of the Brit Lit students on one day, then she can send them to each of their channels for their small group stuff. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. The only downside to that, so that's a common workaround I've seen
Right.
a lot of people do. The only downside to that is that really works best if we're going to make people be in the same breakout groups for the entire semester, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, it's a pain to be switching people around, which is good because they'll have a place that they can keep their notes and work, and they can keep going back to that throughout the semester. The only downside is that then you kind of don't get that mix with the class, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have the same people be with the same people all semester, which is sometimes good, but sometimes you want them to, college especially, right? It's all about the experience. So you want them to have as many experiences as want and be exposed to as many opinions and things as wanted. So I would want my students to be, probably for each class to have several different groups that they could be in, and that just becomes a pain in the butt to manage.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other, I wouldn't call it a downside, but limitation or max at least, is teams. The notes that I've found is teams can have a maximum of 30 private channels and 250 members in each private channel. So that is something to keep in mind if that's the route you're going, but you don't have to go that route anymore because huzzah, the feature is coming.
Yes, and I have no idea what the limits are going to be on that feature, but would be something that we should keep in our mind.
Yeah. So Microsoft Lists and Teams are now generally available. That might mean there's still some rollouts happening, but it is rolling out to the common people now.
Yay. The common folk.
The common.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. An upgraded version of Lists that is actually pretty neat to use. It gives you a starter list, frameworks you can use, some new functionality, some better coloring. It's prettier. We're going to include a link to a little demo that I found on the internet yesterday. So it just basically walks you through doing a list. It's a pretty cool little demo there. So
for people who are trying to figure out what this is. So this is not something new. This is Lists coming out of SharePoint, but it's a new user interface for it with some new end user functionality. So it is still SharePoint Lists. The power of SharePoint on the back end. This is exciting, not sad, because that means the testing of this capability has been around forever. We know the limits of it, and it's in the tens of thousands. So it's good. But yeah, I'll check that demo out. I'm very excited about it. And I'm very excited about the possibility of being able to drag and drop lists, list items, and just end users, business users being able to figure out how do I use a SharePoint list, because that's always been a challenge.
Yes. So a lot of good stuff there. Proven technology. Just upgrading it and
Yeah.
making it better and more easier for the users to use, and then pulling it into Teams. Where, so again, using Teams, and this is an interesting thing. Teams is, I'm going to say, come a long way in the last few years. I mean, it's
Well,
not
it went
a
from
very,
nothing to this. So
yeah, it went to nothing for this in 3 years, and it is really, granted, I work for Microsoft, but I think we're doing a really good job of making this the one place that you need to go to do
yeah.
all your work.
Yep.
Where
More and more.
it is morphed, and the entire plan, and great for the people who have been developing it and planning it, but it has gone from this application where I can go in and chat and save my files and all that. So that's what I'm doing, just to communicate, to really being this hub or platform that I can. Jay, I hope you're still there,
I'm
because you
here.
froze up my screen.
There's about five
Yes.
or 6 seconds of dead silence on my side.
No. So yeah, I got a little bad network quality message, so I wasn't sure.
Ah, okay. Yeah, no, I think Teams has come a long way, and it really is becoming a central hub for getting work done. And the more they bring things like lists and tasks into Teams, the more they bring functions like the whiteboard into Teams meetings, the more successful people are going to be. So it's really exciting. Speaking
And
of
we don't
exciting,
talk about it a lot, but there are like 300 separate things that you can bring in, and so when you go to add to a new tab, so like
yeah,
just a bunch of applications that we haven't
third-party
even
apps.
begun to
Yep.
touch. And maybe that's an episode where we start talking about third-party apps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, I don't have to agree with fact. Yes, there are in the near 300 apps, third-party apps that can be brought in. And for the government folk, this is very exciting. They just announced on Monday, I think, which is weird because it was a holiday. They announced that side loading is now available in the government tenant, the GCC, which is good news for people in the government who are trying to develop custom apps but don't want to put them in the app store. Whether it's a confidentiality thing or it's simply not wanting to or able to go through the approval process, it's pretty cool. It's something that's been sought after, and it helps people supporting the government as well. If you're developing something for an agency that deals with some level of confidentiality or secrets, even if it's not a secret or top secret environment, you want to be able to keep your stuff to yourself. So I'm
Yeah.
very excited about that.
So
Didn't
I
mean
think
to go
with
there.
that, what I think you're going to see more of, and this is just my personal opinion and don't know if this is true, but I think the government is becoming more and more comfortable with the cloud.
Network is crazy today, Craig.
Nope.
Hello, there you are again. Say
There
that.
I go.
Start over again. The government's becoming more friendly with cloud, favorable to the
Be,
cloud.
becoming more cloud friendly and used to that, right? So I think it's easier to get things approved now. They don't, I'm sure they still do the same kind of scrutiny, but I think they're better at that whole process of getting things approved so that they can then be rolled out to their tenants and stuff like that. That could be just me, but it seems like things are not as lagging as they used to be, as far as, we
Yes.
would release a feature and then we would hear, well, when's it coming to the government tenants, right? Next
Yeah.
year, 2 years, kind of thing. So,
Well, I think part of the Jedi contract that came out that was awarded to
and
Microsoft.
then
So part of the Jedi contract that
lost you
came out
again.
and was awarded to Microsoft, and was recently re-announced as being a Microsoft win. I think there's a stipulation in there that new features to the commercial tenant have to roll out to the government at a much more rapid pace.
Yes.
So that's very exciting. It's not just that they're becoming more comfortable with it. It's that there's also more of a promise to bring features out more quickly. We're going to get you new internet, by the way. That's
Yeah,
the third or fourth time
we've been having the rain, and for some reason that affects my internet. I think they're doing work. I mentioned that, but okay, so let's jump to something I know that is you were very excited when I mentioned this. When I
the
mentioned this
NDI.
earlier, right before our call, but NDI is rolling out for Teams. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk
So
about that? Because like I said, you were excited about it.
So, if you've watched one of our episodes where we have a guest, you may have noticed, and it drives me nuts, that either Craig or I have the big screen over here, and then our guest gets like this little window up there or down there, and I promise it's not because I don't want the guest to have the big window. I would absolutely give it to them if I had any level of control. But the way Teams does the recordings, it randomly puts them in. Maybe it's by the order they log in. I don't know, but you don't have any control over that. So NDI for Teams, the primary thing that they're doing is it's going to convert each video stream into a discrete source that then in a third-party tool you can use to manipulate them individually. So while it's not necessarily going to allow me in Microsoft Stream to modify it post-production, it will allow me to use a tool like OBS or Streamlabs or any other number of them to have more professional broadcasting capabilities, to be able to select this person as the primary, which actually fits with another feature coming called Spotlight,
Oh,
where
yeah, I was going to jump to that.
the primary presenter can say, I can make it so that I'm the speaker, even though Craig is talking and there's 20 people in the meeting. I can make it so that I'm the focus for everybody. So similar concept, but much much more professional scale on the NDI feature. And then the Spotlight feature also very cool. For teachers especially, if you've got 25 people in a thing, you want them to pay attention to the teacher, not the loud mouth in the back of the room who won't unmute themselves. So
Yeah, and I thought I saw the ability with that to then be able to present from like a handheld device. So you've always needed the client. And I know that this is coming out, and I don't know if this is a separate feature, but I thought I saw it with the NDI. You need to be able to produce and present from the actual Teams client, but this allows you to, and I could be going down the wrong thing, so we'll double check this, to be able to use like a tablet or something to that and be able to go through the internet and project that or present. Does
okay,
that sound right?
I have not seen that feature.
I know they're working on it. I know it's on the roadmap. I don't know where that's at. So
Okay.
just to give you a little bit better, along the same lines, to give you a little bit more options for producing and sharing videos while you're doing those kind of events.
Yeah. The more features they bring to that, the more likely. I mean, you see the NBA using it. The NFL is looking to use it next. I didn't see if they used it in last night's Chiefs game or not, but you know, trying to bring a fan experience to a live game, I think we're going to see more pressure from Microsoft to increase the capabilities to things like what you're describing. So it's pretty cool.
So on a side note to this and client related, I had a customer who was going to do a virtual conference, and something we know a little bit about, right? And they wanted to do live events and push it out and have have it go up on Yammer, and then they wanted to also add they also wanted it to go out on their SharePoint site so that people could do this. And for lack of a better phrase, they were kind of freaking out about it, right? How are we going to do this? Microsoft sold this to us, told us that we could do it, but I got a really interesting email asking me to join a meeting about it. And the client was, to say the least, not happy. Jumped on a call, walked him through the process, had some follow-up, sent them some follow-up information, had some follow-up calls. They did their proof of concept, kind of did the conference thing, global conference, got it. we were supposed to have a meeting Thursday about it to go over some other things on it, and the client followed up with, "Oh, I don't think we need to have a meeting with this." He's like, "It is pretty simple once you explain to us everything that Teams and SharePoint and Yammer can do together." And he's
Yeah.
like, I think our thing was just underestimating how much power we have with the products that we owned, and that the technology can do it. He's like, and then after we figured it all out, he's like, I can't imagine doing a virtual conference on any other technology. So that was pretty cool. There is some cool stuff going, that we can do with just being able to produce a live event in Teams and then push that out to Yammer, and add a stream web part to SharePoint to have it displayed. So we shall see, but there's a lot of people doing some pretty cool stuff with it.
Yeah, there are. Speaking of the client and cool stuff, if you've ever used Teams before, which I imagine if you're listening to us, it's because you've used Teams. Probably the most common complaint I have heard, not a road blocking complaint, but one of the most common complaints I have heard is people who want to use the threaded discussions replying to an existing thread,
Yes,
create a new thread by mistake. The new conversation button has been rolled out in channel messaging, and it's glorious. It is no longer, it doesn't look like a reply to the previous one. It's very clearly a new conversation. And it's one of those I think you and I talked about it maybe 2 months ago, because it like appeared on my client for half of a day and then it disappeared. But it's back. It's at least, I know it's in our tenant. I don't know this is a really simple way to figure it out.
I believe it is generally available.
If it exists in our podcast tenant, no, it's not in our podcast tenant yet.
Oh, it's coming out. It's rolling out. So you should see it soon. It should be coming to a theater near you soon. Although you can't go to theaters, so you will never be able to see it.
Yes. So anyway, I think that's it. I think, just as a reminder, Microsoft Ignite is coming soon. It's we'll put a link in the show notes. It is worth checking out. I've been twice now. I usually spend most of my time in the the exhibition hall, mostly because that's why I'm there. I've gotten to present it at once. It is a very powerful event. There is so much information to learn. And the fact that it's virtual this year and open to everyone, and I want to say free.
It is free to anybody who registers.
Yeah, it just go register and go watch one presentation, and it'll have been worth the time of registration.
Well, the nice thing about it is it's virtual and it's free and it's recorded. So if you can't make you don't have 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. open to watch a session on Teams, right? You can also watch the recording of that a day or two later when you have the time and the ability. And I know that's what a lot of people do, is like wait till the weekend and then binge watch.
Yeah.
So, instead of Game of Cards or something on Netflix, they watch, I don't know, Game of Thrones. I don't know. Game of Cards, House of Cards, something of
Game
Cards.
Of Thrones, Lord.
Poker.
Let's end on a low note. Thanks, Craig.
It's a show I don't watch. I don't know why.
All right, Craig, thank you for pulling this list together today. This was a fun conversation. It is exciting to get to talk about the new features after a couple weeks of boot camp. I imagine we'll go back to boot camp soon, but being able to run through some of the new and cool things is
and we might have a guest or two in the future too. So it's not just me and Jay. We'll bring excitement.
I mean, why wouldn't it just be us? But no, I agree with you. Bringing more guests in would be a good idea. Craig, have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.
And
this is me signing off.
Nice.